Take a deep breath. Tune into the beating of your heart and awaken to a fresh perspective. Welcome to See More with Morsi, your go-to podcast for discovering a centered path for your purpose. And what's up? My name is Morsi. I help entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives just like you invite presence into your life. You are not your thoughts, but not everyone's ready for that. This knowing can be both liberating and challenging because it comes with resistance, a resistance to an attachment to beliefs, an attachment to opinions, an attachment to control. It's a part of the awakening process. I'd like to set you up for this podcast episode. Something to remember, because this is something to bring into each podcast episode. See More with Morsi is a podcast that points towards presence. Words point towards presence. A reminder to shift awareness, expand awareness beyond the mind, beyond thoughts. The mind, it likes to conceptualize and analyze and critique. But that is not who you are. And so a very powerful practice is to not get so wrapped up in the thoughts, not get so wrapped up in the words that I use or I'll share, but to allow it to be a space to help you rest in knowing, to help you simply be aware. Because often the simplicity of awareness is something the mind resists. You are not your thoughts, but not everyone's ready for that. Thoughts are ever changing. They come, they go, they rise, they fall. Opinions rise and fall, thoughts rise and fall, beliefs rise and fall. They change. They change throughout life experience. It just changes. It's a part of the mind, the nature of the mind and experience. But awareness is ever present. Awareness is always. Awareness is the space that holds experience. The space that holds thought, the coming and going of thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are awareness. Thoughts come and go, emotions come and go, events come and go, people come and go. Only you remain. And often, that resistance, that aspect of when I say not everyone is ready for that, is when there's so much identification with the mind and not enough awareness of awareness itself. Not enough space. Whenever there's too much identification with the mind, there's too much ego. Too identified in beliefs, too identified in opinions. And it's not to say that beliefs and opinions don't have value. Indeed, they do. It's what guides us in this physical world. What helps us understand what our values are and how we would like to engage in the world. There's nothing wrong or bad about it. But that stress comes, the suffering comes when there's too much attachment, too much grip on it, because the mind likes to find its identity in thought. And it feels a need to prove something, to protect. And often that comes with a heaviness. It comes with a weight. But when awareness expands beyond the mind, there's a resting in simply knowing. There's no need to prove, right? You're most present when there's nothing you need to prove. There's nothing you need to protect. The less the mind fills the space, the more presence fills awareness. You're more in flow with the moment. Yes, of course, you still have beliefs that guide you, but there's not an attachment. You're not looking for that belief to complete you, that opinion to complete you. There is a deep, deep knowing that you are more than that, and it's full. When I use the word space, space is a knowing. It's not a lack of knowing. It's a knowing, a deep knowing that's not attached to thoughts or beliefs or opinions. It's a knowing that holds such things. But often, once again, the mind resists that. In my experience of being a spiritual teacher or a teacher of presence or a pointer towards awareness, I've come in contact in many ways to how the mind operates. First, in observation within my own experience, and then also with those who I come into contact with. There's often a debates and this need to prove something. Oh, I don't like how you said this. Prove this and that and this. And it's a lot of mind, a lot of mind, a lot of the needing to know and the certainty. And that's the aspect of the mind, the needing to know. But there's what I'm pointing towards is a knowing that is beyond the mind, that doesn't need proof. This is why I bring it back to awareness. All right. We're always aware. We always know. Awareness isn't something that needs to be debated. It's not personal. We're aware. It's here. It's always here. We're aware. And even then, as I share this, there's space to not be so gripped on to those things. It truly allows us to step out of our thoughts once again. To not always try to be right. Presence is not about being right. It's not about right and wrong or good or bad, or it's a being at a vantage point where you know. It doesn't need words. It's a recognition that you are the present moment. You are this moment. It's not a separation, right? What I'm sharing is centered in non-duality. Non-duality. There's no separation. The awareness that all things are interconnected. And so in that awareness, this is where we find ourselves more compassionate, more patient, more understanding, more aware of how the mind operates. The mind's need to prove and to protect. The mind's need to conceptualize and analyze and solve. Once again, there is nothing wrong with that. But in stepping into this space and inviting presence into your life, it's once again an awareness that that is not only who you are. You are beyond that. You are not your thoughts. A powerful practice is observing thought, right? When you observe thought, you begin to notice this distinction between thoughts and the space where thoughts rise and fall. Often when we're overthinking, when we're stressed, when we're reactive, there's not awareness of the space that holds thought. It's just thought, thought, thought. There's not enough space to know. Even as I speak, you notice I allow space between words, gaps of space between words. This is to point in many ways towards awareness once again. The mind is always looking to grasp. It wants more. It needs to be stimulated. It needs something to analyze. That's why this day and age in social media, it's very common to cut out the gaps of space. It's very common to constantly stimulate Mr. Beast videos, right? Yeah, I'm calling out videos. Just stimulate the mind. Always something to grasp. But when there's space, the mind, it doesn't like space because it can't identify it. The more space, the more awareness, right? The less the mind fills the space, the more presence fills awareness itself. It's a pointer towards simply being here, not being so caught up in the future and identified with the past, right? Identified with who you think you are, who you think you're supposed to be. In this very moment, you're everything you are and everything you have the potential to be in this moment. In this moment is where action takes place, growth takes place, change takes place. Is here. It's only here. It's always only going to be here. And that's what makes it so liberating to know that you are not your thoughts. So that you're taking action. You're a leader, you're a creative, you're an entrepreneur, and you're not attached to who you thought you were because of an experience in the past. There's a deep knowing. I'm just here, resting in the space. The mind, it likes to wait for the next word that's coming up. But knowing is knowing, and knowing rests in space. Perhaps the mind might say, what's Morsi going to say next? Why is Morsi just sitting here in silence? Entertain me, speak to me, stimulate my mind. And this is, once again, it's just something to be aware of. You are not your thoughts, but not everyone's ready for that. Not everyone's ready to step outside of being identified with the mind, with being identified with beliefs. I had a question. Someone said, so that means I have to let go of my values? Once again, absolutely not. I have values, I have beliefs, I have opinions. But through the spiritual practice of awareness, maybe not even a spiritual practice, just a knowing, right? It's a practice until it's not. But through pointing awareness back to presence, it's a knowing that I am more than those values and beliefs. There's more to this world. See more with more see. To see more. See beyond the mind. It's a different seeing. A seeing that doesn't need words. It doesn't need intellect. It doesn't need right or wrong or smart or not smart. All of that is of the mind. If ever you find yourself in any interaction with someone and you find yourself on your awakening process and you notice, all right, this person is very identified with the mind, very identified with ego, it's up to you to discern whether or not to engage or let go. Often with debate, it's just two minds, right? Debate is healthy, maybe for social issues, right? Debate is good. Hey, let's figure out how do we want to make this a more morally agreeable world in a way. But when it comes to this awareness, it's not being so focused on words or debate, but resting in knowing, resting in awareness itself. That's what these pointers are. Pointer, point, stepping stones. You hear me say this over and over again, but I like to bring it back to the essence of this. You are not your thoughts, and not everyone's ready for that. And if you find yourself at this state of consciousness, at this level of awareness, when I say level of awareness, it's not about a hierarchy. It's not about what awareness is better than another. It's just a level of awareness of less or more mind. Just a way of expressing something. That's all. When you find your level of awareness or your quality of presence beginning to expand, you'll notice the way the mind operates even more. And you'll know when to explain more or to just not explain at all. You'll know truly that you are not your thoughts, that thoughts are tools to use, to build, to manifest. And not everyone's ready for that, and that's okay. This is not something that needs to be forced. This is once you find yourself drawn to it, you're drawn to it. When someone is drawn to it, they're drawn to it. But this is not something that is forced. It's something that you surrender into. And that's the difference. And this is why I find myself drawn towards non-duality, drawn towards presence and awareness, because all it is a surrender, is a recognition, a resting in what is already here right now. You are not your thoughts. And likely, if you made it to the end of this podcast episode, you are surely ready for it. If not already aware of it. And this episode holds as another pointer in this world that is so consumed in mind and identity and ego. This episode serves as a pointer, a reminder of your essence. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe to my newsletter, The Enlightened Entrepreneur. I'm now sharing exclusive video content in there, guided meditations, topics just like this, pointers toward presence, right? Seymour with Morrissey and The Enlightened Entrepreneur go hand in hand. There are pointers toward presence to keep you centered on your purpose and your path. Your purposeful path. Something we all need in this world when it gets unpredictable and there's uncertainty. Pointer toward presence, ground us in the moment, tune us in to a deeper knowing and reminding us that everything is okay, everything is unfolding as it should, and everything works out the way it's supposed to. My name is Morrissey. I'm sending you peace, love, wholeness.